I never thought a single homeowner's rule could push me to become a living room shipbuilder. But here's how one petty HOA rule turned my quiet suburban life into a full-blown act of rebellion, and how my living room became the stage for the most satisfying "I told you so" of my life. It all began the day I moved into what I thought was my dream neighborhood. Manicured lawns, freshly painted shutters, perfectly polite waves from behind hedges. The HOA brochure promised community harmony. What it didn't say was community control. For a year, my little fishing boat sat quietly in my driveway, covered neatly with a tarp. It was my escape, a piece of my coastal childhood. I'd haul it out to the bay on weekends and feel the wind and salt water clear my head. Nobody complained, until Karen. Yes, her real name was Karen. Crisp blouse, HOA badge, a permanent frown etched into her face. Out of nowhere came the letter: "Your watercraft violates community standards. Please remove it within 10 days." I thought it was a mistake. Emailed, called, no answer. A week later, a second letter, $500 fine. My hands trembled as I read it. My heart pounded with that mix of humiliation and fury only unfairness can bring. How was my tiny boat any worse than the rusting RV down the street? Why was I the target? I felt cornered, disrespected, stripped of the one piece of freedom I had left. That night at my kitchen table, those letters lay like a losing hand of cards. Something inside me snapped. If you don't want my boat in the driveway, I thought, fine. I'll build a boat somewhere you can't touch it. A slow smile crept across my face. Right inside my house. The next morning, I drove to the lumber yard. Cedar planks, nails, epoxy, a new power sander. The clerk asked if I was starting a project. I just smiled. At home, I pushed my couch into the garage, rolled up the rug, and laid down a tarp. My living room became a shipyard. The smell of sawdust filled the air, mixing with coffee and a rising sense of defiance. My dog sat in the corner, cocking his head like I'd lost my mind. Neighbors slowed their cars. Kids pressed their faces to the window. And I kept working. Each strike of the hammer a heartbeat of rebellion. On the third day, a knock. Karen, hands on hips, lips pursed like she was sucking a lemon. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Building a boat," I said, wiping sawdust from my hands. "You can't build a boat in your living room." "Show me the rule," I replied. Her face flushed crimson. "This is not appropriate for our community." I smiled, savoring the moment. "Your rules stop at my front door." And I closed it softly, like a period at the end of a sentence. Word spread like wildfire. The neighborhood Facebook group lit up. "Has anyone seen what Greg is doing?" Half the comments called me crazy. Half called me a legend. I just kept working, plank by plank. The HOA sent more letters, threatening legal action. I sent back selfies, grinning with my saw. Their power couldn't reach me here. Every nail I drove in felt like a small act of freedom. Every brass accent on the deck a little spark of joy. By week 3, my living room held a sleek, gleaming 20-foot beauty. Polished deck, brass fittings, the smell of varnish, thick and sweet. Kids on bikes waved when they passed. The retired man 2 doors down brought sandwiches. My defiance became a rallying point. Karen parked her car across the street every evening just watching. I could hear her arguing with another board member. "We can't let him win." But she'd already lost. The story was bigger than her. On a Saturday morning, I hung a sign on my lawn. "Boat viewing. Free coffee." Dozens of neighbors stepped into my living room, jaws dropping. Phones flashed. Videos hit social media. By afternoon, local news trucks pulled up. "Man builds boat in living room to protest HOA rules," the headline read. Comments poured in. "Good for him." HOAs have too much power. Even my cousin across the country texted me the clip. Finally, a new letter arrived from the HOA. No red stamp, no threats. Just one line. We'd like to discuss a resolution. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my hammer. People think revenge has to be loud and messy, but sometimes it's a slow burn. Sometimes it's cedar shavings on your living room floor and a community realizing you stood up for them. My boat wasn't just a boat, and it was proof that you can't bully someone into giving up what they love. That's the day I stopped being a quiet rule follower and became the neighbor they whisper about. The one who built a boat bigger than their rules. If this story made you grin or gave you goosebumps, hit that like button right now. Drop your own HOA horror story in the comments. I read them all. And if you love seeing bullies get outsmarted, make sure you subscribe. Because the next story I tell, it might be even sweeter.